Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean Tobias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome serial entrepreneur and chairman CEO of Globality, Joel Hyatt, to the Reboot Chronicles. Joe's extremely disruptive startup ventures over the decades have spanned legal, technology, media, and other industries. He democratized legal services for the rest of us back in the 70s when he co-founded Hyatt Legal, busting the ban on lawyer ads in the U.S. And he also shook up the industry by adding legal services as an employee benefit, which is now part of MetLife. Next, after winning an antitrust case, which broke up a big media stronghold, he and Al Gore launched Current TV, pioneering user-generated content. Current TV was pretty hot at the time and received multiple Emmys, Peabodys, Livingston Awards, investments from Comcast and Direct TV, and is now part of Aljazera Media Network. Joel's latest venture, Globality, basically was designed to make purchasing simpler and smarter for companies with autonomous self-service sourcing that speeds up procurement through better intelligence. Joel, good to see you.
Thanks. Appreciate the invitation, Dean. Good to see you.
Yeah, long time no see. Back in the TechNet, early Silicon Valley days, and I remember running into you and Al Gore once in a while back at Current TV. So I'm not sure where to start, but obviously we want to talk about, a lot of people talk about, we're disrupting this, we're disrupting that. You are an extreme disruptor. You actually do it. You go in and break some, break some rules and take people to task, which is really important. So you've been on quite a journey, and I guess a great place to start is two things, really. Of all the things you could be doing, why doing this? But the real question behind the question there is what keeps you going with all this?
Well, I love the entrepreneurial journey. To me, there's just nothing more exciting than taking an idea, turning into reality, building something that's important, that addresses an important need, that building teams, creating culture, adding value. The theme to my entrepreneurial career, Dean, is in each of the cases where I've started a company, it's really been about identifying a societal issue and believing that there was a private sector solution that could address that issue and have a positive impact. Each of my business stories really starts with that.
Yeah, and you're always focused on what's next. I mean, I'm the serial CEO, not the entrepreneur. I come in later and help scale it and really, turn it on its side, because the scalability is,
Well, both of those tasks are very valuable. Most people think it's all in the idea. The truth is, it's not all in the idea. There are lots of great ideas and lots of people who have great ideas. Execution, taking that idea, turning into reality, scaling it, building it, making it work. That's actually the hard part, Dean.
Yeah, I always view the harder part as the 0 to 1 part, because I'm always at awe and like, wow, it's amazing you brought this far. This is kind of where I'm comfortable, versus starting it from Zippo kitchen table stuff, which is a little scarier sometimes. But
you're addressing a typical human phenomenon, which is we admire more the traits and aspects and skills and abilities that we don't have in those people who do have them, and we take for granted what we do as being just a natural thing. Of course, I do that.
Well, you just nailed me. Why don't I just let you interview me? We'll get this over with. So why, of all the things, I could think of 10 industries you could be screwing around with right now and turning them on their head, including media. They still need, now it's a whole new oligopoly, but we can get into that later. But yeah, how'd you choose this one?
The genesis of Globality, again, came from a societal issue. And what I was trying to figure out is, how can we make globalization work better? How can we drive the benefits of globalization deeper into the world's economies, thereby helping more people, more companies? Globalization has undoubtedly benefited many, many people. Over 2 billion people in the developing world have come out of poverty because of globalization. And the costs of goods and services for all of us all over the world have gone down because of globalization. But a lot of people were lost in the big transactions of going from national economies to global economies, going from manufacturing economies to service economies, going from analog economies to digital economies. And
Right.
those people who were lost in the cracks, people in this country, for example, who worked in the steel mills, in the auto factories, in the rubber plant. I mean, so many great middle class jobs that really disappeared. Those folks, public policy didn't really help those folks get through those transitions. And so what happened is a populist uprising against globalization. People came to believe it was benefiting only the rich and powerful and the elites. Well, since that wasn't the case, the question really was, how do you address it? And you address it by making sure that the benefits are obvious and driven deeper and, in fact, help more people. And so I thought the way to do that was to enable smaller firms to participate in the global economy. If you think about what small firms in the services economy do, all the inputs are electronic today. Most of the work output is electronic. So why does a firm have to be local or regional or even national? Why can't it compete for business all over the globe? Why can't small firms get big, giant Fortune 500 companies as customers? Why can't a firm in Milan sell to a US-based company that wants to do a marketing campaign in Western Europe? Why can't we globalize the economy in a way that there are more participants than just the big companies who were participating in the global economy? That was the genesis of the idea.
Smart.
Now, as often happens in the entrepreneurial journey, the idea morphed and it changed and it refined and and in our case, it just got bigger because when we went and looked at, okay, we can use technology to solve this problem. We're going to eliminate the RFP, the request for proposal, this ridiculous
I shiver
paper.
when someone says that word. So.
Exactly. We don't need those today. We'll eliminate that. We'll do all these things to enable small businesses to play in the global economy. But when we built an initial AI-powered platform to do that, when we took it out to the market and we talked to big companies, we said, look, you ought to buy from smaller firms. You ought to buy from diverse firms. You ought to buy from local firms in the many countries in which you do business. They agreed with that proposition, but when they saw our platform, what they didn't understand was why were we limiting their use of our platform only to situations when they might be interested in a new small supplier? Why couldn't they use our platform for all of their?
Right.
And we go, wow, really? Because what they came to realize is what we quickly learned. How they do procurement is really yesterday's news. It is as ancient and bureaucratic and inefficient. It's astonishing how poorly big companies spend their money.
Especially this big fortune guys.
Yeah. So we had to go back to the drawing board to make what we were building more comprehensive, much more complex, so that we could serve the needs of big, giant global companies that spend billions of dollars. And that's what we're doing today. We have companies all over the world who each put billions of spend through our platform. And what we've built is a transparent, fair, on the merits, new ecosystem for how companies do business together. And we're very proud of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the benefits of co-op pricing meets Web3 meets marketplace. But you started mid-market small, which I would have done as well, because that's where the pain is. They don't have buildings full of procurement people like the government does and the Fortune 500 has. But now you're moving up market. You're saying, hey, this platform is so powerful. You big dogs should use it. And you probably don't need 1,000 procurement people anymore.
That's exactly right. And we have huge customers, Johnson and Johnson, Fidelity, Adidas, British Telco, Santander Bank Group, on and on. Big companies who put most or all of their spend through our platform because it provides intelligence. It makes every user of the system as smart as all the other users of the system. It captures knowledge and information. It shares that knowledge and information throughout the far-flung tentacles of these large global companies, and it opens up the entire ecosystem of global trade to many more firms who can compete on the merits.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons we wanted you on, not just because of all the cool disruption you've done in upsetting industries, but you're one of the few companies that started low market, let's just call it mid-market, depending on if you're a financial measurement thing or an industry measurement thing. They have different revenue levels, and you've successfully gone up market into the big, dog enterprises, and you've also built, people, platform, passion. So you've got the platform you built, you've moved it up to the next level, but you built a pretty impressive leadership team. How did that go? It's always tough to get the best people on the new ventures.
Yeah, it's the part I love the most is building great teams, creating great culture. I actually believe culture is a key asset in a company's success. Very proud of the leadership team we've assembled in every functional area in our company. We have a real leader who's running that team. They came from great places. They brought great experience. And I think the reason that we've attracted that kind of talent is because not just the size of the opportunity that we saw, but the importance of its purpose. The idea that we could change how business was being conducted, that we could build a new ecosystem for global trade, that we could empower every employee in a company to do a better job for its company, and that we could create good new jobs in smaller firms as they grow by becoming global and not just local or national. All of these make people feel good about how they're using their talents. I think people want to have a purpose to their professional lives. And there's, this is a company driven by the purpose, be driven by the fact that what we're doing is important. And it's not just valuable, and it doesn't just create value both for our customers and our stakeholders,
Right.
but it's important as well.
Yeah. And you started this, many years ago. It's not like this isn't
9 years ago.
this isn't
Yeah,
some
9 years.
brand new unicorn that just popped on the scene unexpectedly. And the reason I bring that up is AI technology, though companies like yours and mine have been working on it for years, wasn't really around. So how is it? I guess two things. Well, how is it impacting the industry? Gartner says, procurement companies that don't embrace AI are toast. Like, well, great. That always sounds good in a report, but yeah, how's it impacting your business and competitively? Is it bringing on a lot of wannabe competitors who are saying, "Oh, we can do that"? Because
Yeah, so great,
they
great
always
question.
say because of AI. I'm like, prove it, show it to
Yes,
me.
so great question. So we started 9 years ago as an AI-based company. We
Wow.
set out to build an AI-powered technology platform. Now, keep in mind, that's like 8 years before anybody had ever heard of generative AI and 7.5 years before generative AI even existed.
Yeah, it was
Um,
machine
but
learning and basic stuff. Yep.
That's right. That's right. It was much, much harder to do, and it took us longer, and it took more money, and it took more talent. It was we had to create some technology and have some technological innovation and breakthrough. But as a native AI company, we were incredibly well positioned to benefit from the advances that generative AI represents. So that's been very helpful to us. And the most important development coming from generative AI is the explosion of information in the last year around AI. Everybody's heard of ChatGPT. That's a consumer app, but the fact is, everybody's talking about, oh, my kids do their homework essays using ChatGPT. Oh, my neighbor's daughter wrote her wedding vows using ChatGPT. And the result of all of that was inside every company, people started talking about, how can we use AI effectively inside our companies? Now, that's not ChatGPT.
Yep.
That has to be enterprise grade from a security point of view, from a reliability point of view. Well, perfect, because we've been building that for 9 years. So as this moment evolves, we're delighted, because now you have CEOs and CFOs of almost every company asking, how can we deploy AI to reduce our costs, capture efficiencies, and improve business outcomes? Well, our answer to that question is that the procurement function is the low-hanging fruit. We can give you immediate and material impact by deploying AI into the procurement function. And everyone has the same reaction you had, Dean, to the notion of RFPs and, oh my God, how we do it makes no sense. Well, that's right. How you do it makes no sense. And we will bring a way of doing it that people will love, that will make sense, that will add value, that will cost less, that will get you better business results. And we can do that quickly. We can have you up and running in 8 weeks and saving money on day one. So there's a real moment of opportunity out there today for us, and we're scaling very quickly to seize that opportunity. And we're adding a lot of great customers as clients and users of Globality's platform.
Yeah, as we've said on the program and in my Forbes articles, it talk a lot about, two types of people, ones that are going to leverage AI to enhance their career, and ones that are going to be afraid of it. And I sense there's a lot of procurement people that are like, wait a minute, you're taking over my job, and you're saying, no, I'm not. I'm actually making your company more efficient and faster and smarter. And by the way, there's a global supply crisis in the roaring 20s here. And are you doing anything to help educate? Because procurement people are, it's a little different culture in some of these companies.
So you have it exactly right.
That was the politest way I could say it.
You said it exactly right. And we have to make people understand this is not a threat. It's an opportunity. It will empower you and your team and your business stakeholders, your internal customer at your companies that depend on procurement to help them. It will empower all of you to do more, to do better job for your companies. It'll make your jobs more important. Combining the intelligence of AI with people and their talents, it's in that combination that the real benefits accrue. And it is an education process. It's so that people's immediate reaction, oh, it's going to take away my job. No, it's going to make your job more important, and it's going to enable you to do a better job and to feel better about the work that you do, because it is becoming more valuable.
Yeah. How do you feel about fixing the government? Let's just put it that way. I can't think of a worse bureaucratic purchasing procurement system than most of the governments around the world. What did they used to say? $100 hammers. Gosh knows how much they are now.
Yeah. Well, look, we would like to help governments. We're not doing that yet.
I mean, between you and I, we have a lot of contacts in government, but everyone's tried to help them. They don't necessarily.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And, we have so much opportunity, and we're going so hard right now, meeting that opportunity in the private sector. For us, unfortunately, at the moment, it would be a distraction to do what's necessary to really try to get into government and help them. It takes too long. They don't get to decisions quickly.
Right.
It's very, very hard for government to innovate. I do believe, and I'm very confident in this, that in a few years, when what we're doing is ubiquitously used by all companies in one fashion or another, governments will follow and say, look, we've got to bring this kind of innovation to how government spends its money. And we'd be delighted to help. But they just, as you said, it's very, very difficult to help government. It's very difficult to sell.
Yeah, that's why I added the marketplace. I was putting a lot of commas in describing your company. It's like once you have a marketplace and everyone's using it, it becomes harder for the non-users to,
That's right.
They have to eventually go, hey, why aren't we on this platform? This guy
That's
did
right.
it.
And
This guy did it in 5 minutes instead of 5 days.
Yeah, and when we start to get a couple companies in a particular industry sector,
Exactly.
We tend to get a bunch of companies in that industry sector, because otherwise those that are using our platform to systematically reduce their costs and capture efficiencies, they have a competitive advantage. And there's also, by using an AI-powered platform such as ours, there's an audit trail, there's an information trail, there's analytics available to executives, so everybody's able in that company to make better decisions. Well, if you're able to make better decisions, you're going to have a competitive advantage. So we end up, growing pretty quickly within an industry sector once we break into that sector.
Yeah. Any sectors hotter than others? Industry-wise, not just you, but you.
Yeah, well, in terms of what we're doing, I would say financial services, the pharmaceutical industry, those are probably our two biggest industry sectors. But I'm pleased to say that we have companies in just about every industry sector that are customers of Global.
Yeah, the manufacturing guys are interesting ones because they're experts in their little categories versus financial services. They're buying all kinds of stuff. Yeah, when you look at, you mentioned competition. Is there enough companies going after this? I mean, I always, rising tide, all that stuff is. I find competition means you're in the right place, right market, right time. How do you feel about?
So it's a very, very good question. And turns out you're right. Most entrepreneurs want an idea that no one has, and
Yeah,
they want no one to have
it's
it. And
lonely.
they think that's the best thing that can happen. It turns out, by the way, it's not only wrong, but it's been classically known in theory to be wrong for a long time, like the famous marketing book, Crossing the Chasm. I mean, until you have competitors, you can't really build a particular company, because when you go out to sell it to companies, if they don't have other companies they can compare you to, then they go, well, what is that? If no one's buying you, why would I buy you? If, in other words, so you really need a market you need an industry to be created.
Exactly.
Now, yeah, you want to have advantages. I mean, the answer to your question is, yeah, there are increasingly people who say they do what Globality does. Now, they don't do it with artificial intelligence the way we do, because it takes a long time to build what we built, and it takes a lot of money to build what we built. And even with generative AI, which is not as reliable as what we built over the years, you have to, you can't get the business, particularly of these big companies, without being really reliable and enterprise ready. And so we're now in a really good position. We have companies saying they do what we do, and then when our potential customers compare us to them, we come out way on top. That's an ideal competitive situation. But you are so right, because when we had to go out and find early adopters, we built the technology, we had this great idea. It was hard to find any company that would take the leap and be the first to use Globality. Companies like to say they're innovative. Most are not. Most are not willing to be first at anything.
No.
But you tell a bank that about these two banks that are using our platform and the results they're getting. Oh, I want in. You tell them, well, no, I don't have any bank customers yet. You'll be the first. Say, you know what? We're not going to be your first. You come back when you have a few. So it's tough to break in, and fortunately, we're past that point, and we're at the exciting place in the entrepreneurial journey where we're growing fast.
Yeah, amen. So you were really famous back in the 80s with, first you broke up this silly idea that you couldn't advertise, lawyers couldn't advertise on TV, much less anything really provocative. So I think they let you in, but then you started running your own commercial. But you were like the spokesperson. Anyway, I encourage the listeners to go watch these. And no one really looked at or cared about it. It was almost like the H&R Block moment. It was like it was you and H&R for finance, and and you're pretty media savvy. You and Al had a media company, so I kind of put those two together. Like, this guy's good, but in front of the camera and behind the camera. And why aren't you out there being a spokesperson for this more aggressively?
Oh, I don't know. It's a different thing. I mean, back then we were introducing Hyatt Legal Services for a mass public market. We were trying to fill the need of the very large segment of the American public that wasn't being served by the legal profession. People not rich enough to use the traditional law firms that serve the affluent, and people not poor enough to qualify for the limited government-funded legal aid. And that was most of the American public. So back then, television was the right medium to reach large swaths of the public, to inform them of the availability of low-cost legal services that would be conveniently affordable with standard fees. And so TV was the right medium, and it was brand new, and I was the first.
You were the first, and there was 3 networks, and everyone knows.
That's right. So it's right. There wasn't cable, and it was a very exciting time to do what we did. And, we made legal services available for millions of people who had not previously had conveniently available and affordable access. And out of that, we pioneered the concept of employer-sponsored group legal plans, which
huge
made
category now.
Yeah, huge category. We invented
thought you were
category.
crazy. Like, what? We're going to pay for that? No. Yeah.
And today there are, I don't know, 40 million families in the United States that get legal care as a benefit of employment just through the Hyatt Legal Plans business that we built.
Hyatt serves Hyatt Legal Services, not hotels, guys. About, I think I read 200 of the Fortune 500s through these benefit plans. Yeah. That's the latest stat. But if I had to look at one of the themes through all of at least your 3 big dog startups, legal, media, and now logistics, it's democratization. It's a nice bag.
It is, and it's also it's democratization, and it's using technology to both improve quality and lower cost. Those are the things.
You must have a lot of stories like me. I mean, you've been through good times, bad times, starting companies when there was no technology. It's a lot easier now, by the way, I think. Yeah, what was your biggest personal reboot? You clearly have had a lot of business challenges. We could go on for hours.
Oh my! Listen, you have to, in the entrepreneur journey, you just have to have the fortitude to, face that you're teetering at the edge of the cliff, and figure out how you're not going to fall in the wrong direction, and you just have to get used to that. And all of the companies that I've built have had those cliff hanging moments. But the other thing though is, and I've loved the people I've had an opportunity to work with, and the teams that I've built, and the customers that I've served, and that part to me is very exciting. You mentioned Al and I building a media company together. He was a great partner, and he is a great friend, and these are good times. And I mean, I could regale you with the stories that come out of the adventure of building companies. With Current, you pointed out, look, one of our goals was to bust open an oligopoly. The media industry was controlled by a small handful of companies, all of whom were in turn controlled by white men. That was just a fact. There were white men who controlled the 4 or 5 major media conglomerates. And not only in the U.S., but worldwide, the information and entertainment you received, it was all one way. It was what these companies decided to send you. And the only choice you had is you could pick up your remote, press it, and go to another network that one of these guys was sending to you. And you would receive what came your way. That was it. And we thought, wow, that's not good for democracy. It's not good for consumers. It's just not good. We wanted to break open that oligopoly. And we did, as you mentioned, pioneer user-generated content, so that we got people engaged with the content right up to and including creating the content that they consumed. Right. And off of that came lots of things. It came everything from YouTube to Twitter to all kinds of stuff from that innovation. But how did we get there? We wanted to start a cable satellite television network. You couldn't in the United States. Those companies controlled the distribution. And we would go in and say, we've got this idea for this independent and really exciting and really innovative. And I'm sure they died laughing after we left the meeting. We tried for 2-3 years to do that. They wouldn't give us distribution. So when you can't build, you sometimes buy. So I'll just tell you one story from my entrepreneurial journey. So Al and I were going to figure out, well, maybe there's something we can buy to get us the initial base of distribution to build our kind of media company. Well, the other thing that in the United States, no one would sell to independent. They sold to each other. Right. If a TV network became available, it went from Comcast to Warner Brothers. So Al and I learned about a small little network that was part of a big group of media assets that the French company Vivendi was going to sell. So anyway, we networked our way, Al networked our way. We got a meeting with the COO of Vivendi, and we went over to Paris and met them. And we said, look, we know you're selling these $15 billion package of assets, but one of those little assets is something that you probably didn't even know about. It's this little TV network in the US, and it's got distribution into 17 million households. We want to buy it. We're going to change it to this whole concept we have, and we want you to strip it out of this package and sell it to us. Well, we're not going to do that. We're selling all the assets. Listen, no one will even notice you strip this out. No one's going to buy this package for this little thing. Nobody watches this little thing in the U.S. Sell it to us. So anyway, we get in this conversation, and the guy then asks, he says, well, do you have the money? And I said, yes, we have the money. We just need you to agree to sell. So he goes, all right, well, look, in any event, he started engaging. So Al and I leave. It's a really great meeting. They're going to sell it to us, right? So we get into the elevator, and Al says, as soon as the elevator door is shut, and just the two of us, he goes, do you know something I don't know? And I said, what do you mean about the money?
About the money?
Yeah, we don't have the money. He goes, we don't have the money. I said, Al, look. He goes, look, this is a common phenomenon. You've got to tell the person selling you have the money, and you got to tell the investor you have the deal. If you go tell the person selling that you don't have the money, they don't want to waste time. If you go tell the investor that you don't have the deal, they don't want to waste time. So there's actually a term for it at business school. It's called chicken and egging. It's an actual term in the literature of business. It's called chicken and egging. You give me the deal, I'll get the money. You give me the money, I'll get the deal. You have to it's chicken and egging. And I'll never forget Al's answer. Al said, wow, because he had just left public service, a whole career of public service at this point. And he said, wow, I'm going to be really good in business because in politics, they just call that bullshitting.
I can just see you and Al Gore in Paris getting a condescending look from the French seller, like, do you have the money?
We had a lot of good times, and we built something we were very proud of, and we continue to do things together, which is very exciting.
Joel, that's amazing. Just before we go out, where do you want to see the company in 5 years?
Well, I'm the only old guy in the company, Dean. So all the rest of the leadership team is at least one generation younger, and that's a good thing because in the end, that leadership team will make those decisions.
Right.
You have the possibility of taking the company public, keeping it private, continuing to build it. There's so much opportunity yet ahead of us. I don't ever think when I start a company about, exit strategy. To me, it's all about building an enduring company. And what you end up, once you have an enduring, for example, I sold Hyatt Legal Plans to MetLife, but, for the next 25 years, it was Hyatt Legal Plans owned by MetLife, and it's done great things. That's an enduring company. So we're going to make sure Globality is an enduring company. And I hope the next generation of leadership, when I finally think it's time to retire, I hope they'll just continue to build it and assure that it continues to be important.
Beautiful. Well said. Thanks, Joel. You've been listening to Joel Hyatt, who's the CEO of Globality. This is Dean Tobias with the Reboot Chronicles. We want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.